Oh, yeah. Now I can tell it's recording.
Yep.
The little red blinking light is.
Yep. Okay.
I'm awake.
And now we're really going to do it. Is this thing on? And here we are on a 17th episode of A Date with Destinee, which will soon be on Spotify and other platforms. Right now, you can find us where you found us, which is most likely either SoundCloud or YouTube. And we're also proud to announce that every single one of our 17 episodes has stayed up on YouTube except for the first. And I'm Eric Hansen of Eric Hansen Music, and I dabble in music and political punditry. I'm also doing a podcast, and I also participate in the comedic arts. And on that subject, I've been invited back to Tommy T's to do a show there on August 25, and I'm sure I'll have some good material because I'll be doing some research in Central Europe in the coming weeks. And I may also be shooting some footage for a coming music video, which I cannot discuss with you yet. And here is the lovely Destinee, who will introduce herself now.
My name is Destinee. I am a bartender. In my free time, I like to play video games and sing. I have 2 cats. I also have a boa. Yeah, that's me, you know. I love a bunch of different hobbies. Lately, the past couple weeks, I've been really busy, so I wanted to get my candle business up and running, but I've kind of been focusing on a couple other things, and now it looks like I'm going to have to put that off for another couple of months because I have other things that I'm doing. So now I'm kind of hoping in like October, I can finally get my business up and running. Yeah.
On time for Halloween.
That's actually kind of what I'm hoping, because you're supposed to open a candle business in time for like some sort of holiday. So I'm hoping that I can get like some fall fall scents out, and that'll entice people.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you can have a high quality soy candle light up your jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah, they're soy candles, and they're entirely like natural. You know, there's no paraffins. It's all natural scents that I use. I don't use any wicks I'm experimenting right now. I'm trying to find wicks that don't release like any carbon. And I will be experimenting with wooden wicks soon, but those are very expensive, and my candles will already be expensive because it's expensive to make candles. So.
Excellent. So look forward to putting in your own, trying them out. And we'll keep you posted on where you'll be able to obtain your bristling bee candle.
It should be on Etsy. Oh, well, it depends. I might not set it up on Etsy first. I might just do like in person.
Excellent. That's even more fun.
Yeah.
In fact, when I go to the damn store, I always find myself extremely reluctant to do the self-checkout. Not because I don't trust myself, handling the passing all the shit through. I mean, the stuff through the. God, darn it, my Tourette's medicine wore off already, and I promised everyone this was going to be a PG-13 show today. And so, but I kind of like to interact with people. And just yesterday I was there, and I started off at AAA. And at AAA, I normally don't go there for anything. But I had gone to Japan a number of times. I've been there 6 times. And one of the times I was there, I realized that it might be cool to be able to drive, because I had a nice person that was kind to drive me to the romantic spots in Hokkaido. And as a man, you want to be able to like take the wheel sometimes. So, but I had no ability to get a license. And once you're there, it's a multi-month process to get your credentials to rent a darn car in Tokyo, Japan, or wherever on the islands.
I hear it's a very long process.
And so the next time I went, it occurred to me that I should look into getting an international driver's license. Now, this couldn't be a simpler process. You just go into the darn AAA kiosk that gives some DMV services generally. Save yourself some line and torment that way. And you just ask for international license. $12 later, there's this little card they give you, and it has check boxes. And I'm looking at the check boxes, and it has car, and it has one for motorcycle. And I'm like, ooh, So desu ka.
So this.
So I'm looking at this motorcycle checkbox with the quiver of the pen in hand and ready to, I decide I'm going to ask them whether it's kosher for me to check that in advance of getting an actual M1 credential from the DMV. And they said, sure, that's fine. So I checked that, and now I have, within minutes, for $12 later, I have international driver's license that includes motorcycle. And
Wait, they just like let you without even doing, because like here in the United States you can't drive a motorcycle without taking like tests.
oh, I know. So
how do they do
But anyway, I decided my approach was I was going to be honest about it, and I didn't know for sure if I could just present this and get away with it without having an underlying M1 credential.
Yeah.
On my actual driver's license for
Got
here
it.
in California. So
True.
I did look up on Craigslist, found a guy that did training, and he provided the motorcycle. At that time, I didn't even own one.
Yeah.
And I had a housemate that had one, and he let me drive it around the neighborhood. And of course, that never actually happened. These are all entirely fictional accounts for any legal purposes. And so I got the M1 license in advance of this trip, and it was going to be a 2-month stay.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, I was working at Seiko Instruments, and I had been there like 8 years. And they offered a chance for me to move to Torrance to keep my position with the company. Mm-hmm. And the other choice was to take 6 months of pay to do nothing. So I thought long and hard for about 2.3 seconds, and I'm like, check, please. So during this hiatus, sabbatical from the career path in technology, I decided it might be interesting to explore my options in my spiritual motherland of Japan.
True.
So I now had M1 license officially. It was already on my international permit that had a little checkbox filled out. And then I was looking into it with some friends, and they're like, oh, it's going to be hard to rent a motorcycle in Japan. You need to have like a sponsor or like a, what do you call it when someone's responsible for you over there? You
Like
have
a
to
co-signer?
Yeah, it's basically of that sort. You have to have some kind of...
Now, when you say motorcycle, is it like an actual motorcycle or like a moped?
Well, that's the thing. I found this store in Haksan, and the funny thing is I knew how to read the kanji at the time, but I didn't know how it was pronounced. So I'm looking at I had a map of all the districts of Japan.
Yeah.
It was strictly in Japanese, and it was my challenge to use this to get around.
Yeah.
So I was challenging myself as part of my learning language exercise. So I had this nice guide. I still have it somewhere in storage. It's in my database. I can find it quickly and show you on the next show. But anyway, I was using this exclusively to get around. So I knew I had to go to Haksan, but I saw the kanji for that, which is basically White Mountain. So I'm like, I got to get to Shiroyama. And someone's like, Shiroyama? That's like, that's the kun reading instead of the on reading.
That's funny. Shiroyama.
Shiroyama.
He's like, what?
So
Did he get what you meant?
Oh,
eventually?
yeah. So,
Okay.
but ultimately, I found my way to Haksan. Somehow, they took my credentials. I don't even know if they looked at my regular license. They took that for ID, but I don't know if they paid attention to the M1 credential or not. That was now proudly displayed. And then I rented for 2 weeks a 400cc moped kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that was for 2 weeks, and I'm riding around Tokyo, left-hand drive, and just friggin' having a real Tokyo lifestyle experience.
Sick.
And then after that, I rented a 500cc actual motorcycle.
Oh, wow.
And that one was even more fun, and did that one for an additional week.
Jesus.
And just in case, but you know what? It was actually easier to learn left-hand drive on a motorcycle. Although it's a higher stakes game, so I'm not recommending this for people, because in a car you have an accident. In a motorcycle, you have a life event, which might be a life-terminating event. So you're kind of like, you don't have much in the way of airbags and protections. And so if you make a mistake on a motorcycle, it's very high possibility that it might be your last mistake and that there will be no repeats.
Yeah, especially if you're in a country that you don't know, on a instrument like the motorcycle that you don't really ride often.
Yes.
It's very risky.
So I was, but at the time I was kind of took pride in engaging in many risky behaviors. And so I was riding on this bad boy. But then after that, the guy that ran the apartment complex, he was basically my landlord. It was a gaijin house was the brand. And
course.
so I had this tiny apartment that was in Iguisidani, which is right between, I forget the name of the stations around it. But there were a lot of, near the stations, there were two things. There were famous Jidai period or Edo period poets' house, like a museum. And then there were all these love hotels everywhere.
Oh, gosh.
So every time I got off the train, I'm like walking through all the love hotels, and they'd have little mama-sans out front and, offering various services. And when they were soliciting, I just assumed that they were offering their own service, but they were actually kind of brokering deals for like even better kinds of accommodations. And but that was one of the things I realized was being way back then when you're single and you're in Tokyo and you hear about the love hotels and it's like, gee, I'd like to have a love hotel experience. But, too bad I don't have a date with me. But then you realize that for a nominal fee, one might be provided. Now, obviously, we won't go much more into that. But the riding around Tokyo was fantastic. And then I was invited to go on a 4-person trip. And my landlord and 2 ladies were going to join us to go to Hakone Gardens.
Cool.
And they have like the onsen resorts, and it's
What?
like a beautiful setting out there. And
That's so cool.
And it's near kind of a volcano, and you can buy at the volcano at the tourist site outside the onsens. First, the scenery was just spectacular, just like the beautiful nature. And then you can get eggs that were cooked on volcanic steam and
What?
like hard-boiled eggs. And you can also, or maybe they're soft-boiled. And I also had the experience of having my first wasabi ice cream. And wasabi ice cream is, as I would describe at the time, just like a girl should be, sweet and spicy.
Sweet and spicy.
But it was actually quite delicious. But it was.
It
I know
doesn't sound good.
It sounds bizarre. And the funny thing is, even some Japanese natives aren't aware of this. So when I describe this to some there, they're like, "Oh, you must mean green tea ice cream." No. Here's the sign. Here's the picture. Wasabi ice cream. Oishii desu yo.
How do you say ice cream in Japanese? Is it
Ice
ice
cream.
cream?
Yeah, it literally is. So
Is it ice cream?
there's a lot of katakana words that make it
Yeah.
real easy to.
They have a lot of like stolen words. No, they have a lot of words that are like easy to pronounce for Americans because they originated in English
Yeah.
or in the West.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any words that's originated from any foreign source is given katakana, and there's one exception to that rule that I know of, and that exception is tempura. Tempura uses hiragana and if not kanji, I forget.
Yeah.
But it doesn't use katakana because it's considered a native Japanese word, even though it was introduced in the 1400s by the Portuguese when they were like making their fun visits
Yeah.
back in the 1400s or so.
Tempura. But
Tempura. Yes.
everything else is like kohi.
Kohi.
That's coffee.
Escareta, radio is radio.
Radio.
TV is terebi.
Terebi.
Yes. So,
It's kind of funny.
and when I worked at Seiko, there was this new CEO came in. Everyone was real skeptical. And this guy was like huge, like almost albino looking. He had white hair, but very light blue eyes, very pale skin. And the guy was probably 6'7",
Jesus.
and probably 260, just hefty big. It's like the abominable snowman kind of build, but just like the nicest guy. But when he first came on, we were all kind of skeptical, like, oh, he's coming in to do the cuts. It's like that movie Office Space. It's like they're bringing in outside help to, and they're gonna like act as a consultant and figure out who gets axed.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, he and I would have lunch, and he was a total Japanophile. He lived there many times. He shared some funny stories, including when he'd ride in Japan, you're on a bicycle on sidewalks. And when you're riding, you use a bell to alert people in front of you to step aside so that you can roll through. And he said when he rang the bell, everyone would just turn and freeze because the guy looks like he came down from the mountain. I mean, nobody could be more of like a standout in Japan.
That's
Like,
funny. Yeah, because he's really tall.
yeah, he's white hair, white beard, wide, pink skin, just like he looks like he came down from the mountain.
Yeah, that's funny.
And so, but he loved Japan. He lived there a long time. And then when I was there, I met with him and he kind of helped. I met actually on multiple visits. One time I stayed at his house with his then wife. Then I went to Hawaii when he got married to another wife that was a Japanese lady the second time around.
Mm-hmm.
And he was big into robotics. And he was, I have to be, the poor man passed away of cancer in I think like 2007 or 2008 time frame. But he was like major into the robotic scene in Japan, which is obviously kind of a big business over there.
Yeah.
And so, but I think we're going to go to break for just a moment, and we want to again welcome you to the 17th episode of A Date with Destinee.
What is that?
And we're back in on A Date with Destinee. And now we're going to allow Destinee to actually get some words in.
Words. I'm kidding. Yeah, so I actually have never been to Japan. I really want to go. I really want to live there. And I know that seems, a lot of people have like this romanticized version of Japan. Like I know Japan is not perfect. There's definitely some issues with it. Like their work ethics are not great. People literally work themselves to death in that country. Women are not treated as respectfully in the workforce as in the United States. Supposedly, I don't work there, but I do watch a lot of people who live in Japan on YouTube who have explicitly experienced like negative work environments as women. But I really want to live there. I would love to go. I watch Abroad in Japan. He's probably the most well-known Japanese YouTuber. Probably. I don't know. Maybe. And then I know.
And he's not actually abroad.
Yeah. Well, so his last name is Broad, like Broad. And then there's the word abroad, like he's living abroad. So abroad in Japan.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
It's like, it's a play on words. I think he did it on accident. I don't even know.
Almost like A Date with Destinee.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a play on words. But I'm actually wearing one of his shirts right now. Like, it's not his shirt. He sells this. That would be weird if I got one of his shirts. It says "for fuck's sake," and I think that's the most clever thing that I've ever seen on a shirt. Yeah, there it is.
Outstanding.
It's super cool. It's one of my favorite shirts. It's definitely way too big on me, but whatever. Chris Broad, if you're ever watching this, can you make your shirts just a smidge smaller? Because for people who are actually Japanese, American sized extra small is like not actually extra small. Anyways, for my birthday, Eric actually got me this really cool book. Like it's basically, it talks about like all of the Japanese slang, and it teaches you like just a bunch of like Japanese slang words. It's really cool.
Japanese Street Slang by Peter Constantine.
Yep. And so he has a version of that book and he got me the newer version. And I took his version to work a couple months ago and we were just like randomly opening pages and just like having a whole bunch of fun learning all of these really interesting words that mostly are incredibly inappropriate, but it's really fun. Yeah. So
you take that book with you someplace and you make a party out of it.
Yeah.
It's basically, wherever you go with that book, you got a party.
Yeah, that's the party book right there. It's like, it's really fun. But yeah, I want to go to Japan and have my own experiences. I can't really talk about going and seeing the beauty yet because it's expensive. It's really expensive. I want to ask, like, if I were to move there for like several months, how much do you think that would cost?
When I went there, it was so long ago, it would be hard to measure. But I think right now the dollar is strong against the yen. One time when I went there, it was 137 yen to the dollar. Mm-hmm. So, and I bought all this stuff before the trip. Like I think even by early Amazon, bought digital media and all kinds of stuff for my video camera. So I made this big investment before the trip. And then I flew in. I'm at Kansai, which is, at the time, I didn't even know it was a man-made island. I didn't even know it was an island. But I had a night stay at the hotel that's on Kansai. And I'm looking around at I'm asking all the people at the airport, do you know where this hotel is? They're just like, there. I'm like, what? So I didn't have to get on a train, a shuttle, or anything. I'm rolling my bag across smooth marble floor, and then I'm in the hotel lobby. From there, it's like just right on the complex, and it's like you don't have to like step across the street.
That's
so
awesome.
Then I go to the gift shop there, and I see all the stuff I just bought is cheaper there at the hotel gift shop than what I was paying for in the States.
Yeah, see, if I were you, I would have just returned, like not used any of it, returned it once I got home, and then just rebought it all in Japan. That's totally what I would have done.
And on this particular trip, I was going to Vietnam to visit a friend of mine that goes like once a year with his family for business and pleasure. And so he invited me to stay kind of with him at one of his friend's house in Vietnam. So I packed for that. And I also packed for Japan, and I got on a sleeper train, was hanging out with the Japanese SDF, which is their kind of not often spoken of army. It's called Self-Defense Force. And so ever since MacArthur, at the end of World War II, they were basically prohibited in their constitution from having their own army, but the SDF was kind of like the loophole. And I got on that, so I'm getting things out of order. But I packed really heavy for that trip. And we were just talking about packing because I'm going to Central Europe with the smallest bags on earth.
True. I made a comment. I was like, you're going on a trip for 2 weeks with just that? Like, I couldn't even fit, like, my jacket in there.
Yeah. So the 2 bags I'll show you a little later. Now, but on this trip to Japan, I was indecisive as a packer. It always took me too long to pack, and I'd procrastinate because I hate packing. So I'd be friggin' going until, in this case, I was up literally all night packing for the trip.
Oh my God, I'm the same way.
And so the whole night went by, the sun's coming up, and I'm still not really ready. So I'm like, oh crap, I got to get to San Jose Airport to get to LA to get the connecting flight to get through Kansai. And then I had a friend that was going to meet me at the airport in Vietnam in Saigon. So they call it Ho Chi Minh City now, but real Vietnamese still call it Saigon because they know what it actually is and they haven't given in to the communist nonsense. But, so I had a duffel bag that was literally 70 pounds.
Jesus.
70 pounds, this big friggin' hanging duffel bag, and then a backpack and all this stuff. So I get to the hotel at Kansai, and I go in, and they have this, you know how they have bellboys to help you out at a hotel in America?
Yeah.
Here they have bell girls, and this girl was the size of Tinkerbell.
Oh,
she was
no.
a tiny little Japanese girl that, if by Western standard looked like she's in middle school. So she helps me up to my room, and then she was insistent on grabbing this bag. I'm like, no. She's picking this 70-pound bag and moving into the room. I'm like, stop. I can get it. So,
No. Did she look like she was struggling?
Oh, yes.
No.
It was friggin' the bag weighed more than she did. So anyway, I was like an ant carrying like a cutter leaf ant carrying the payload. Oh. So ultimately I spent that night there, went on to Vietnam, got, but that morning when I'm all set to get on the plane, I get to San Jose Airport and it's like, oh, you missed the flight. And I'm like, I cannot miss this. So the only way around was to buy a separate Southwest ticket to get myself down to the airport, maybe on time to make the damn jumbo jet on the Japan Airlines.
Oh, my God.
So I get down there. I'm so friggin' exhausted, and I come up lugging the 70-pound bag and all this stuff to the counter, and I'm like, oh. And so there's this nice Japanese lady behind the counter, and she could sense that I go, oh, sorry, I haven't slept all night. She goes, oh, today's your lucky day. I'm like, what? She's all, seasons class. I got a free bump into business class on Japan Airlines. They call it seasons class. And now I've done a couple international trips to Japan, and most of them were actually in business class, but mostly that was because I had a good buddy that worked at American Airlines and set me up out of San Jose to Narita a couple times, and I even had a steward pick me up on the way back. Wow. So I was having the good life on these cheap tickets and just enjoying. And the difference between in business class or first class on a domestic flight, first class is basically nothing. It's like, oh, you get a little champagne, a little bigger seat. No other advantage, really. On an international flight, If you're in the back of the plane, halfway through the flight, you're looking for a parachute and emergency exit just to get the hell off it. It's just like that much suffering. If you're in business class, and the first time I did that to Japan, you're like laying back in the seat and you see on the little monitor, it shows the plane that's starting to circle Narita. And you look up and you're like, no, not yet. I mean, I literally didn't want to get off the plane yet.
No.
So it's like such an opposite experience.
That's so cool. I've never. So what's funny is I actually went to Italy. So I went to Italy with my ex because he's Italian and we were going to meet his family. And I'm not going to put too much information out there, but he could have gotten a business class seat all the way to Italy because his family works for United Airlines. And I didn't want to spend a 10-hour flight alone in the basic class. So I made him sit in the worst seating with me because I didn't want to sit alone on a 10-hour flight. This is my first international flight ever. So yeah, do I regret that? Absolutely not. He deserved it. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, but he totally could have sit.
Well, he should have offered you the business class.
I know, right? We could have switched.
Then you could have. Yeah, that's all.
I don't know why we didn't think about this, but we totally could have switched back and forth halfway through the flight, and I didn't think about that until afterwards, and I was like, that was dumb.
I'm still surprised you couldn't get you in together. Maybe United runs differently.
Yeah, but, United is. It's not as good as Southwest. And what's funny is his family is literally has been working for the company for 40 plus years. So I don't know how they couldn't do that.
Can't get his date upgraded. What the God?
Yeah. In fact, actually, I couldn't even get a discounted ticket. Only he did.
That's
so I had to pay for my own
insane.
ticket.
That's insane. That's stupid.
Yeah.
And by the way, United, I flew United to Japan too. And I was, I think I was, what's that?
Is that worth it? I feel like it wouldn't be worth it. I don't know. United's not.
I'm trying to figure out how the United flight worked. No, I don't think I did business class on United, but there was this weird factor. When I was first in business class going to Japan, I realized that America in the 90s came up with what I call a flying pigs policy. Because originally flight attendants, stewardesses, was a glamour job. It was a modeling job.
Yeah.
It was a pretty face-forward job to make a pleasurable experience out of flying for both men and women alike. Because people like to be served by attractive people. It's not just a chauvinistic stance. So anyway, before, the Jet Set Club had this wonderful thing where you had new recruits going in, and these young ladies would have this experience of a lifetime seeing the world, because they get to it's their job to go to all these different foreign destinations.
Yeah.
So as soon as the Clintons were in the White House at the time, and they got the flying pigs policy implemented, as I call it, and you can collect your bonus miles when pigs fly. Okay, give them to me. But anyway, what they would do is they'd take they decided that flying waitressing job was like a career. Before it was again, a glamour gig that all these young ladies primarily could enjoy this wild experience of a lifetime seeing the world. And what happens is now you have all these obasans, if you're speaking in Japanese term.
Everyone is super old.
Yeah. So you have all these aging staff that are meaty, pear-shaped, and kind of grouchy. And,
super grouchy.
Yeah, and they're there primarily for your safety. It's oh yeah, you're going to carry me out of a burning plane. Yeah, right, beach. But anyway.
Totally weird. I totally agree with you. Continue, and then I'll speak.
So when I first got in business class, it was on American Airlines, going to Japan. The entire front of the plane was loaded with these obasans, and these were the senior employees because they've made a career out of flying waitressing. Mm-hmm. So they get to pick the good routes, and they exclude the younger new hires. So now instead of these young girls getting to experience Japan like this life dream, they're all stuck on the domestic flights, and the senior staff goes over and over and over and over to Japan or the hot spots. All they do is they close themselves in the hotel room, order from the bar and whatever, and they don't even look around because they've been there so many times. It's like, but the other thing that was amazing about it was they were very friendly to me because my friend got me set up in this business class, but they were friendly / incompetent. And when I'm on this flight in this business class section, you have all these Japanese customers that are extremely sensitive to aesthetics, like, and customer service, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Japan, people are bowing. People are like, they're the absolute height of excellence in customer service. So then I see these bumbling Obasans, American Obasans, pushing around the carts, banging into stuff, just clumsy, no refinement, zero sophistication. And I can just sense in the Japanese passengers that they're just kind of like, oh my God. And in my mind, there is a theme song playing.
Oh no.
From the Star Wars bar scene. I mean, it was a
We're gonna get
show.
copyrighted for
and
that.
Again, they were nice to me. They were nice ladies overall, but they just didn't have any of the refinement or any of the graces that one would expect from the standards of service. The other thing is, if you fly past Japan, even if it's on United, they restaff with their local talent, and then suddenly it's like the 60s in America. All beautiful, slender models doing all the flying waitressing assignments. And and I think I might have wrote an article about flying pigs in my waronpress.com, but if I haven't, I'll, I guess, make a point of getting that put together. And I was also going to make a song called Flying Pigs, and my buddy Nick was going to help me with that. So, and the name of the faux band behind it was going to be Captain Cockpit and the Flying Waitresses, and it would have like a cover art with like a super hot blonde in the pilot's, in the pilot seat, and then a bunch of dudes with beards and drag, like dressed up as
That's kind of funny.
So that's that might not be politically correct, but you might have noticed that we might trend a little or like slide off the rails of political correctness from time to time on the show. So I hope that you find that to be in keeping with our standards here on A Date with Destinee. And so,
yeah. Well, okay. What I wanted to say is, okay, I've been doing a lot of flying the past couple years, and I have noticed that the stewards and the stewardesses are like much older. And so because knowing people who work in United, I started to ask questions. It's a job you're like grandfathered into. So you no longer, like, I could go get a job with United, but I wouldn't get the good shifts. So basically for the first couple of years, I would be on call, which means that they can call me and tell me that I need to be there within 2 hours at any point in the day. Literally, they could call me at 2 a.m. and be like, you need to be here in an hour and a half. And I'd have to get up and get ready and be there in an hour and a half. And then not only that, if you do have like a set schedule, most of the time you're the night crew. Like you're the overnight person who basically has to sleep all day and wake up at like 9 p.m. and do like the 12 a.m. shifts, the red eyes. That, and you don't get to choose whether, sometimes you might get lucky enough to get like a good flight, but most of the time they're going to be domestic. And anyone who's like had the job for a long time, they get like grandfathered into all of the good locations and the good hours and all of that, which, like there is some, like, part of me thinks like, oh, that's good company policy because it gives you an incentive to want to stay with the company for longer. But at the same time, like you're saying, it's really hard to get new employees to come in who get to experience that. Like, that's kind of the whole point of the job, is going out and having these experiences. And what I've noticed also is, especially since COVID, they are rude. I have not experienced a kind or nice stewardess in probably like 3 years, since before COVID.
We're here primarily for your safety.
Well, that's kind of what it is. And I know what their job is to do. Like, if something, because I've spoken to the people who work as like flight attendants. I know what their job is. I know that they're there to protect you, but it's not just protection, you know?
Well, that's not their job. It's a lie. First of all, none of them are going to carry you off a burning plane.
No. It's not supposed to be carried off. It's actually supposed to be, so they're all trained in CPR. They're all trained and trying to get like, you know, push people off. So I get like that they're trying to like, quote unquote, like take care of us, but that's not just their job. It's also like to make sure that the guest has a good experience, you know? And if you're being rude or giving an attitude, I personally just think like if you're getting up there in age, like, and you're starting to be rude to customers, especially if someone's spending hundreds of dollars on a plane ticket.
Tens of thousands sometimes.
Yeah. Like I've had to spend like $800 on a plane ticket once. And that's not a lot in comparison to what other people will pay. If I'm spending that much money on one thing, like I should be getting good service, you know, like if I need a drink, you don't need to give me attitude like when you can't hear me the first time. We're on a fucking plane, for Christ's sake. Like if I say, let's use orange juice. Oh, like, can I get the orange juice, please? What? You don't need to give me that attitude. Like, we're on a plane. I'm sorry. You can't hear me. Jesus Christ. I spent $800. Don't yell at me.
That reminds me of my favorite flying joke.
Coffee, tea, or milk?
I don't know. Is that fresh squeezed?
That's funny. But yeah, no, I've totally noticed that like the flying industry has just like not been great lately. And obviously I'm pretty young. You know, I've only been flying for like 8 years. But the past 2 or 3 years, it has been bad. We totally derailed though.
Oh, I got to mention one thing about the good old days of flying.
Yeah.
When we're going to go way back into time now.
Okay.
So prepare. You have to close your eyes and imagine that you're living in 1972.
Oh shit, I was not born.
And that you're
Neither was my mom.
Yeah. And that you're already like 8 years old. No, was I? Yeah, I think I was 8. So anyway, born in 64, 72. Yes. So we got on a plane to move. Well, first, my dad was being interviewed to potentially take a position in California. And he was working at IBM. He stayed there for 27 years and was in language development. But anyway, the acronym of IBM used to stand for I've been moved before it became something much a little worse that I won't share. But my dad was doing a lot of phone interviews, and they asked, you know, parents will tend to consult their kids about what do you think about moving out west. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm good with it. But the funny thing is, out west was perceived to be dirt roads. So I literally, when they said we're moving out west, I literally had like the Western kind of motif in my mind. That's funny. So we went to the airport that day that we're flying out, and the cars were already in trailers and moved, you know, at different, you know, levels. So, and IBM would pay for all the moving expenses and make all the arrangements.
Yeah.
So we got on our plane, and when first, there's no security checkpoint because we weren't under martial law at airports like we've been since 2000. So you just simply walk into the airport. You can get tickets on the spot. You could even buy them at the gate and be spontaneous. If you were sending somebody off, you could take them all the way to the gate and say, bye, Grandma. If you were picking somebody up, you walk all the way to the gate and say, oh, look, there's Grandma's plane. And then you wait to see them wheeled off the ramp. So airports were like a normal hub of society where you can meet people. You can and it wasn't this horrible dystopian martial law nightmare that some people that are younger like you have never known anything else.
Well, I have one memory of like before this had happened, and this was before 9/11. So I was really young, and I think it was my first plane ride. I don't know if it was my first, but it was definitely my first plane ride alone. I was like 6, and my mom went to drop me off at the airport, and because I was going to go see my grandma in southern, like in like LA or something like that, Southern California. And she actually walked me up to the gate and made sure I got on the plane. You know, I was 6 years old, maybe 7. It was before 9/11 though. So, and that was the only memory I have of like it not being a weird experience. It was just like, okay, like we got on, my mom walked me up, I got on the plane, sat next to this nice old lady who gave me pizza. It was cool. Yeah, that's it. And now flying sucks.
Absolutely. And in fact, when we were getting on, we went to the airport. There's no security checkpoints, no naked body scanners, no bullshit, no
Naked body scanners.
Yeah, they have those now.
I know.
And I've never gone in one. That's not because of modesty, because it's like, have at it. It's like, but, I'm the kind of guy that wears a suit all day at work. So damn if I'm going to wear one in the pool. But anyway, but I will never go into those scanners because they lie about it. They tell you, oh, it's less radiation than you'll experience on the flight. Bullshit. It actually concentrates on your dermal layer, so it's like many, many factors more of intensity on your skin. So if some of you have traveled a lot and having some skin cancer, that's the first thing to look at. So it's not just the wild violation of privacy where you have snickering TSA, like looking at people basically naked when they go through these scanners. But it's actually much more serious, and it's actually a health risk. To date, I've avoided that. I'm assuming I can still do that, but I haven't flown since before the damn COVID stuff. When I flew before that, it was with family, and they exempt families from that inane thing, fortunately, at least in my most recent experience.
Can you deny it?
I think you can still decline, and then I get to choose the pat down. And I believe that as an American, I have a right to declare my preferred gender of doing the pat down because I don't want to really be rubbed down by some gay dude. So I choose to have her take care of it. You want to feel my junk, then at least have somebody that, that isn't, from of a certain kind of culture and unfortunate proclivities.
I've only had a girl ever pat me down, and if it was a guy, I would feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, but same here. I feel uncomfortable with a dude patting me down. So, so another thing we have in common. So that's, but I will ultimately be taking that option. But when we got on this plane back in 1972, we went right up to the gate. The girl at the gate looked in the handbag that my mom was carrying, and it had some gerbils in it, which I think might be contraband in California.
Gerbils?
Yeah.
She just brought gerbils with her.
Yeah, because it was our pets.
What?
So you
weird.
can't put them in the carry-on. So anyway, this woman opens up and goes, ah! And she startled her because for her, just like mice. So she didn't know. She's like, oh, okay. So we got sent on through and we were fine.
So funny.
But then we get on this plane, and we sure as hell weren't in business class or anything like that. But the plane, it was a jumbo jet. Back then, they ran jumbo jets for domestic flights. I think it was Pan Am. And so they bought a bunch of jumbo jets, and you had dignity in domestic flying. So, and this plane impressed the hell out of me as an 8-year-old because it literally had a piano bar. Now, it wasn't open at the time, but a section was set up with like a little piano and like a bar that was closed for this particular flight. But flying was a party back then. It was not this lame ass crap. It's like it was the next best thing to be in on the Playboy plane.
Yeah, it's so crazy how flying is like they literally try and squeeze in as many people. Can you also turn my headphones down a little bit?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. But it's like they try and squeeze in as many people as they can on this tiny little plane. And I don't understand it because you would think after all of this time, flying has gotten less expensive. So why are they charging more and trying to squeeze more people?
Well, the damn global cabal. Oh, we got to get in a disclaimer before we go to our next break. But anyway, the global cabal basically has their Agenda 2030. When Destinee's mom was on, she pointed out correctly that Green New Deal, Build Back Better, New World Order is all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's all Agenda 2030, and the self-entitled elites that literally call themselves elites on microphones before audiences have made a pledge to ban, for us normal people, not for themselves, of course, flight air travel. We're going to be banned from eating meat, from owning pets, from private ownership of automobiles, and obviously private ownership of guns is a big problem for them too. But anyway, this is all, Agenda 2030 means the year 2030. So if it seems like they're making themselves obvious by being in such a hurry, that's the reason. And you got Manchin just going along with this ridiculous spend bill that has this most outrageous climate hoax crap built into it. And all of this stuff, both the COVID, the monkey pox, that's now, even the CDC says it's basically a disease based on unfortunate proclivities and activities.
AIDS, just kidding.
Yeah, so it's basically they're
Actually, I don't think it's AIDS, but
yeah. So, but anyway, here's what I say to those people. Let's just see if we can avoid some of the gay orgies for 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
that's funny. I'm sorry, that was probably loud. Oh my God. Everyone at my work is terrified of monkeypox.
Just ask them if they've been to any gay orgies, and then if they say no.
Well, so I was trying to tell some of my coworkers, okay, so it's basically like open wounds or like, fluids. So I've been trying to tell them, like, okay, have you been rubbing any scabs on anyone else's scabs? Like, are you like peeling and scratching a scab and then rubbing it in it like on someone else's scab? No? Okay, that would be a weird thing to do. Then you're probably okay. Have you been having nefarious encounters with the same sex? No? Then you're probably okay.
Well, and it's not just the same. See, girls, basically, there's not too much they can do to be in close contact. That's mostly for the sword fight club.
Yeah.
So lesbianism is perfectly natural and healthy. The other lifestyle is quite unfortunate and a high-risk lifestyle.
Well, what? Okay, so I know this is probably going to come off as sounding bad. We'll just put it that way. So this is going to come off as sounding bad. But let's just be honest. Looking at gay culture, they have like such a huge hookup culture that of course that's why it's running rampant in the gay community, because gay people hook up a lot. Like, I've known lots of gay men before, and let me tell you, they do not like to keep it in their pants. It is running like gay culture, like sex is running rampant. So if they didn't have such a high like hookup culture and they were, more monogamous, this wouldn't be a problem. But it's like monogamy really isn't.
Well, monogamy means one woman, one way. But
what I mean by that is like if they were more like monogamous, as in with like one person, it wouldn't be running
less
rampant.
polyandrous.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
The other thing is that there's an important point around that I just want to interject because men and women are different about sex and sexual transactions, relations in an important way.
Yeah.
Women are the decision makers.
True.
Men are the okay sayers. They're basically, anytime a man doesn't have accept an invitation for some kind of debauchery, it's because it's after they've run through in their mind, can I get away with it? Am I going to get caught? Am I going to lose the wife and kids? They're running through this checklist. Otherwise, they're mostly going to say yes. You can conduct the experiment yourself. Just go offer yourself at the Chili's or whatever nearby restaurant and see how many are going to say no. And if you say no, if they say no to you, then you just need to like check into the L'Oreal makeup kit and do a little more self-keeping kind of stuff. But generally, men say yes. Women are the gatekeepers. They're the ones that invite the transaction. It's like, okay, you've impressed me. Let's go. Men are generally not going to say no.
Generally not going to say no.
And
I agree to that.
So if you have men on men sex, who's going to say no?
True.
It's a big friggin' lollipop cruise. It's like, yes, 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 yes. There's nobody there to say, no, I'm shy.
Oh my God, that's funny because that's actually so true. I've never thought of it like that. Wow, that is true. I mean, I've known a lot of gay men. Like, for one, like, I'm not saying women don't like sex and stuff, but men typically like it more. And so, gay men, it's bound to happen in the gay community because that's how it gets spread, like close bodily contact and body fluids, and it's just not sanitary to like go around and sleep around with a bunch of different people and
putting stuff in the wrong place.
Yeah. But Yeah, so that's why it's just kind of funny because I know a lot of people who are actually scared of it, and I'm like, what are you watching? Like, what are you listening to that's like making you, a woman, scared to get this? I guess like some people can be nervous. I heard from someone, she said that like some woman got it from a dollar bill, and I'm like, well, maybe. Where do you think that dollar bill has been? Maybe, like that's kind of scary, but like maybe after handling money, like wash your hands.
With inflation, that's the other thing. There's no better way to insult a performing artist at the performing arts establishments than to use dollars. Dollars
True.
used to be, if someone had a big wad of cash, I would have said, gee, it looks like you're all set for the nudie bar. But these days with inflation, it's like egregious insult to like try to slip $1 someplace. So basically,
You got to use at least 3.
yeah. So it just, yeah. So, but back in my day, dollars were perfectly fine for that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah, perfect.
but yeah,
I
we
wouldn't
covered
know,
a lot
I've
of
never been,
subjects, and we should probably regroup for a brief moment, and we'll be back right after this very short break.
Woo.
I'm sorry, I just can't help it.
Whew.
I love that shirt.
This shirt? Oh, thanks.
Yes.
Me too. I want to buy another one. Hopefully he has.
So we made the show about something. We made it about travel and about monkey pox.
Travel and monkey pox. Japan travel and monkey pox.
Yeah, Japan and Central Europe, which is coming up.
Yeah, I
We'll
really
have all
want
kinds
to
of
move to
comments on that.
Japan.
Yeah.
That's like really what I would want. I just don't know how to do it. Like, how would I do that?
Just
Like-
come with me.
Do I have to save money though? Like, would it be like, or does it like, would I be able to get a job?
Oh, you have to watch Vice, Tokyo Vice.
True.
Tokyo Vice. That actually, Tokyo Vice it's absolutely accurate
Does it
depiction
actually go
of
into,
Westerners in Japan in the 90s. Okay, so there's
But what about
there are
now?
changes. I understand that then you work on, but you're going to catch a lot of cultural insight from it. Just make
Yeah.
the man watch it with you. Make him watch.
We'll watch
the
it
damn
once we're
thing.
done watching Twilight.
No,
Yeah.
no.
It's so funny. He actually watches Twilight with me. We've watched Twilight and Moon and Eclipse now. Oh, we only have 2 more movies and then we're good.
Okay.
But what else should we talk about after this? Okay. So I mentioned all of that. Yeah, we can just go into like whatever you want as an outro.
Okay. And we're back in on a date with Destinee. And during the break, we were kind of catching up just to make sure we were covering all the important topics. So far, we have monkeypox. When I was looking at all these psyoped people at the shopping centers again with masks, I look around and I go, what's that for? The monkeypox? And I went to a birthday lunch with the amazing Nick Sky. And he actually approached the staff that was wearing masks. Some had them, some didn't at Cheesecake Factory. And goes, you don't need those masks. And they actually just trap dirt and make you more likely to get sick. So he really hit it hard. And I'm like,
What did they say?
It was kind of an awkward thing. At least maybe it was more for me because I'm like, I never want to approach anybody at a restaurant before my last dessert of my last meal there.
Yeah.
Because you just don't want to make any kind of bad impression with people that are serving you food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh,
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
As someone who's works in the service industry, like it really is true.
So I like people to be very happy and like me while I'm eating there. But anyway, ultimately, I think one of them actually might have taken the mask off, or at least Nick had that impression. But then he was like really complimenting them. When we're walking out, he goes, see, you look beautiful without the mask. And there was a dude and a girl there, but they both lit up. Yeah, it actually.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so it's like you want to reinforce for people. Masks, if you go to wimkin.com/maskhole, you're going to learn why masks are basically absurd in the face of the COVIDity. With monkeypox, it makes even less sense.
No sense with monkeypox.
Yeah, it's
with
like
COVID. It doesn't make any sense. The only time wearing a mask could ever make sense is if you actually are sick.
Oh, and there's this Wiener, this state senator from San Francisco in California, that's openly out there, shall we say. And this imbecile was telling everybody, you have to wear masks. Masks are the only way to overcome the COVID. And then in the face of monkeypox, he has the exact opposite statement. Well, people are going to have sex no matter what. So these same morons that thought we were supposed to close churches and...
Yeah, that's honestly, that really freaking upsets me. I don't really know, like, how to talk about this without people, like, hating me. But you know what? I don't really care if people hate me or they hate my ideals anymore, because this is just common sense. You can't tell me for 2 years you can't leave your house. You can't go to work. You have to wear a mask. You can't talk to people. You have to be 6 feet apart. But with monkeypox, like, people are going to have sex. Well, maybe if you reinforced like less of a hookup culture, because let's be honest, hookup culture is scientifically, biologically, emotionally proven to be so bad for humans. It is not good psychologically for us to constantly be sleeping around. You're more likely to be depressed. You're less likely to meet someone and stay with them. If you're chasing that high where you're just basically looking for like to get off, like you're basically just chasing serotonin, which is like a quick, easy fix. It's the exact same thing as a dopamine hit while opening your phone. That's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. And I don't understand why in the United States we want to push this hookup culture. Like, yes, women should go out there. You should have sex with as many people as you want. You should be able to, like, sure, should everyone have the free choice to do what they want? I absolutely agree with that. If this is a decision that you want to do, I'm not telling you you can't. I'm not telling you we should have laws that prohibit it. What I am telling you is that culturally we should reinforce monogamous relationships because they are proven to psychologically better all of humanity.
Well, that tends to be family building behavior, and family building behavior offends the global elite. So the globalist pricks that are in charge, that run governments, that collect the taxes, that print the money, want to destroy the family unit as we know it. And so they're doing the spay and neuter campaign for kids under the guise of trans children. And so once you give them these hormone blockers, for boys, it's literally a chemical castration.
Yeah, and people don't understand that also. People really think that they're just hormone blockers. You can always take them off. It doesn't change anything like of their chemical makeup.
Oh, yes, they're just going to have their teenage years when they're 20. Oh, yes, that's going to work out just fine. So this is actually to create, it's a spay and neuter campaign for humans. And the global elite are absolutely determined. They've made it very clear that they're for population reduction. Oh, but on that point, I do have a retraction, the first ever on A Date with Destinee. And it's my own word, so it's my responsibility. And on a previous episode, I scrolled through in the morning and saw a New York Times headline. Okay, and the New York Times headline that I saw that came through social media suggested that the Pfizer CEO was going to pledge to restore the iconic Georgia Guidestones. Okay, that turned out to be, or at least I've since been convinced that was basically a fake headline. Okay, now who should we be mad at about that? The reason for that headline, that's not from a conservative. It's not for someone on the team of reason and the people that are connecting dots doing that, because that's damaging. But what most people don't realize is that there's a lot of people in intelligence communities doing psyops. And the way psyops work is much like the QAnon thing. You push in a bunch of false stories to mix them up with the stories that people are becoming too aware of. And then people are unable to separate the wheat from the chaff. They actually covered this on the Money Heist drama, because sometimes the Illuminati give their stories away in media, but that was also from, it was a Spanish drama. But they showed that basically there was intelligence secrets that were going to destroy all the political leadership, and their method was simply to mix in a bunch of fake stories And then people would look into the fake stories and say, oh, see, this is all conspiracy theory. It's all dangerous conspiracy theory. So we need to ignore all of it.
Yeah.
So that's what happened is basically I was briefly psyoped because you're seeing a story that looks way too plausible and it still matches. I mean, there's no separating the global elites and their agenda from the etched in stone aspects of the Georgia Guidestones. So the association's still strong. It just the specific story that was allegedly presented as a New York Times article was apparently a trap. I tripped on it, and now I'm making the retraction.
Well,
now we're going to invite CNN to do 10 million retractions to cover their last 20 years of wild lies and see if they can get caught up with Destinee's standards for adherence and fidelity to the truth.
Absolutely true. You know what's funny? I actually did get tricked by the QAnon psyop until, because there's like a little, it's like a documentary series. There's like 10 episodes, and I stumbled across it on accident, and I totally got tricked into believing all of this until like the second to last episode, and the lady started talking about like time travel and how like Donald Trump has a time machine. And what else was there? It was like JFK Jr. was like actually not dead, and like they were going to go back and get him, and it was all this crazy stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, could that happen? Sure, maybe. But is it going to happen? No. Probably not. And it was at that moment that I realized, like, okay, I basically just like got tricked. But then I started looking back, and a bunch of stuff in like the QAnon theories was all true, but then a bunch of it was actually not true. So that's when I learned. I was like, oh, like they're tricking people, like they're adding truth and lies into like the same stories to try and like trick people into falling for.
Put them in the same bucket, and then you summarily debunk them all by basically defamation of anyone that followed it. And I wrote an article on War on Press that's called The Left's QAnon Boogeyman. So if you go to waronpress.com and just search on the word QAnon, you'll find that article that kind of describes how QAnon was basically served as, whether there was some originating white hat involved or not, it was ultimately either usurped or originated as a strategy to corral everybody up to thinking that, oh, there's this QAnon going on and he's doing the Q drops. And even after that, however bogus, the worst of the QAnon drops were still more reliable than the steaming piles dropped by CNN during the same period. So It's important to notice that. If you want to summarily dismiss everything based on some bad information thrown in, then take that and apply it to NBC, which stands for nothing but crap. ABC stands for all bull crap. PBS stands for pickpocketing Bolsheviks for socialism. and CNN, of course, is Chinese or Communist News Network. And, and you can run down the list.
So on. Yeah, I'm just going to go out and say this. There's definitely some proof saying that, like, there's got to be some sort of sex trafficking going on in like the big elite world, because some of the things that the QAnon video, like, because when I watch something, I fact check it. I don't just watch something and like believe everything they say. So I fact check it. There's actually some nefarious shit going on with like sex trafficking rings with the elites, and it's disgusting. Like one of the things that I found to be true. There's a woman named Laura Silsby. And during the, what is it called? Like the in Haiti, like the...
Oh, the Haitian crisis, and the Clintons were over there with their foundation, basically rounding up children for their rituals.
Yep. They basically made a lot of money through donations and didn't spend any of it on rebuilding. I think they spent like a couple $100,000, but they made millions of dollars through like, getting donations, didn't spend any of it. Then there was a woman named Laura Silsby who went over there and collected children who didn't have any family members, or like their parents had died. And it turned out that all of them still had family members and that she had basically just abducted all of them. And she tried to make it seem like, well, oh, I didn't know. And the Clintons sent over, a lawyer. The Clintons sent over a lawyer to try and release her. And later it comes out that this lawyer is actually now in jail for sex trafficking.
Fantastic. Oh, and let's remind everybody about during the 2016 race, somebody shared a little audio clip of Hillary describing in such a giddy fashion how she got a child rapist off. And the person that she defended, now people can argue, well, she's just the attorney. It's her job to defend the criminal in this case. Well, she took great delight in the whole process, and there is no question that she went way overboard in violation of ethics when she literally slut-shamed a 12-year-old when she awoke permanently disabled from her rape coma. And then Hillary also arranged for the tampering of evidence. And then she was laughing on air in this audio interview about how she, when this guy passed a lie detector test, she forever lost her faith in lie detector tests. So she acknowledged that she knew he was guilty. There's a girl that was raped so hard she was in a coma from it. And Hillary slut-shamed the 12-year-old as part of her defense strategy.
Yeah.
Does that sound like, oh, well, that's her job? Does that pass the that's her job test to anybody?
Yeah, no. I think the problem is that basically they're combining a bunch of truths and a bunch of false stuff into tricking people into believing these crazy conspiracies. But the fact of the matter is there actually is some nefarious shit going on. And that's all I'm going to say because, I don't really want to pull attention to us on YouTube because we might get permanently banned. But
yes, we do want some attention, but you know what we mean. We'd kind of like to maintain the channel and all that. And this has been, and all opinions expressed are those of the host and co-host. And we always encourage our audience to do your own research because our job is just to have a conversation. And you can participate in that conversation in the comments. And we're all here to basically teach what we believe we know and more ideally learn what we've yet to discover.
exactly.
And this has been, unless there's anything else that we need to cover.
No, that was a good show.
And we may be, there might be a delay getting this one on YouTube because, so we'll be on SoundCloud for a little longer than normal as exclusively. We're also looking into getting this show on all the major streaming services, including Spotify, and I'm just looking at 2 different options to do that. So stay tuned for more as we grow the show, grow the audience, and we very much, meanwhile, we want to thank you for your support and for joining us on this 17th episode of A Date with Destinee. How'd that work out?
No worries. That was good. Probably kind of long, but I think we got a lot of info in.
Excellent. That'll give them something to chew on while we wait to get back from Central Europe for one of us. Yes.